Hello, my name is Brenda Ambal. I am a Vanderbilt class of 2026, and I'm talking about my piece on trauma and magical realism today. So the context for this assignment, it was for a first-year writing seminar called French 1111. The title of the course was Latin American and Caribbean Nobel Prize-winning literature and authors. So over the course of the semester, we read works by authors from Latin America and the Caribbean who won Nobel Prizes. So each time we picked up a new author, we would go through and close read their speeches that they gave, using all of the literature analysis techniques that you would normally use. And then we applied the same close reading techniques to their works. And we used what we learned about their ideologies from reading their speeches towards analyzing their literary works. And we also took into consideration what the politics was at the time and what their audience was, who their audience was, and all of this. So this approach to literature kind of shocked me originally because for all my life until this point, I'd been told that studying authors' ideologies or personal beliefs really had no true place in pure literature analysis. I'd been taught that lit crit should be contained within the world of a work of literature itself. And so being able to give ourselves the freedom to explore how these authors' backgrounds shape their writing and how the political tension and experiences of a whole population might shape an audience's reaction to a work gave literature more of an importance in my mind and actually encouraged me to read a lot more. One of the things I'm doing this year in 2023 is I'm trying to read a book a week on average, so 52 books by the end of the semester. And a lot of these books are classics, and you could argue that they do have a place in the literary canon. And so I'm really excited to not dive in only to these works as a surface level reading, but also towards learning more about the authors' biographies and their ideologies. The writing of this piece was really meaningful to me because it gave me the opportunity to apply concepts from multiple disciplines. So everything from psychology to philosophy to history and politics. And bringing all these together to create a coherent theme made me feel like it had more importance and that I was writing more accurately of what my initial reactions were and thought processes were when I was reading this text and not limiting myself to being within the world of literature. And so my process for this writing was, as I was working my way through these novels, both of which are fairly long texts, I just wrote down my thoughts in the margins on sticky notes in my notebook, wherever I could find room as I was having them, just my initial reactions, my raw organic thoughts. And then I went back and I looked more into what the political situation was at the time, and what magical realism was in general, and how these authors were using them in their works to convey certain themes. And I realized that I could maybe make the argument that it was used as a coping mechanism in some ways for national trauma. And I really wanted to focus on magical realism for this piece because, especially from the scientific perspective, I'm a neuroscience major, plus other things I'm not sure about yet, but studying magical realism in particular allows me to control the variables that are really being manipulated, because magical realism is one genre that we can pinpoint really originated in Latin America and stemmed from the society there at the time. And Latin American and Caribbean literature is often overlooked in the literature community because the canon just might be not as big at first when you are first looking into it and learning about it. People might argue that it's newer and so it's not as important, but there's a lot of good work, and the genre of magical realism, while it is super niche, is one example of how something very specific and important and unique came out of this region and gives kind of an import to literature from the region. I really appreciate my professor, Dr. Miller, for letting us have this assignment that encouraged us to think and say whatever we wanted and interact with literature in our own way. Just the open-endedness of this assignment and how he encouraged us to interact with the literature over the course of the writing seminar changed the way I think about the books I read and the way that I write especially. It didn't feel like I was writing a piece that was like academically structured and should be a certain way and shouldn't talk about certain things. It felt like I could say what I truly felt, and what I believed, as long as I had the sources to back it up and I could formulate a strong argument. So I'm really grateful. I think this piece especially strengthened my abilities as a writer, and I'm excited to share it. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.